Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you as well to Manny Atwal, who's the President and CEO of Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. Thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Vaccines provide hope that we can and will get back to doing some of the things we love and see the people that we also have dearly missed these past many, many months. Vaccines are our way out of this third wave and out of this pandemic. Vaccines are how we get our lives back in the short term and in the long term as well. And so we need Manitobans to get vaccinated. The sooner you get vaccinated, the faster we beat COVID, the faster we can protect one another, the faster we can protect our healthcare system, the faster we can get our freedoms back, which we will never take for granted again. Nearly a week ago, our government shared the next phase of Manitoba's Protect MB vaccine efforts to ensure broad uptake across the province, which is crucial for the safe and sustained reopening of our economy and our communities. We know from clinical leadership and we know from research that there are thousands of Manitobans who are open to getting a vaccine, but they need support. They need support from people they know and trust to help make that decision, to roll up their sleeve, to get fully vaccinated. And that's why we launched the Protect MB Community Outreach and Incentive Grant program last week to encourage organizations, groups, businesses to get involved, to work with these folks to encourage them to have the confidence they need to go and make the decision that they need to make to get vaccinated. To tackle vaccine hesitancy, in other words, and to support their clients, their community members, their friends and neighbors in getting vaccinated. So I'm pleased to share with you today that since that announcement last Thursday, we have received nearly 400 organizational registrations of interest, and there will be, I think, continued positive response, which we will count on to assist us in keeping this campaign moving forward. Shows you that Manitobans want to get behind this vaccination uptake program. When you have hundreds of organizations that are signing up to play an active role at a local level in their communities to make that happen. So I want to put another ad out today and say to anyone watching or who's listening that interested community groups are encouraged to register. We'll have an additional informational session in the near future at protectmb.ca. protectmb.ca. Additional vaccine efforts also include an updated public awareness advertising campaign, bolstering our vaccine accessibility and availability with additional pop-up clinics and other venues, working with the Protect MB Campaign Advisory Committee that's been helping to guide our vaccine initiatives to help shape Manitoba's reopening plans and promote vaccination in their networks and communities as well. And yesterday, as you know, we launched a new secure immunization card, whether virtual or the real card, as an added benefit for Manitobans who are or will be fully vaccinated. And this is going to allow those who have received both doses of a COVID-19 vaccine to resume some of their activities, while our public health orders will, of course, still need to be in place for a time, such as visiting a loved one in a hospital or a personal care home, traveling within Canada without having to self-isolate for 14 days upon return into Manitoba. I want to add today that I have been actively encouraging all my colleagues, coast to coast to coast, to do the same, that we are encouraging them to reciprocate. Some of the jurisdictions have had isolation requirements or other stipulations which we would like to see lifted as a consequence of, for those who are double vaccinated. As a consequence of that, then we would be more readily able to see our friends across the Canadian the country of Canada and see our family and resume, in many cases, additional business activities as well if you're in a business situation. I guess what I'm trying to say is we'd like to see a reunion of the Canadian family as soon as possible. Let's talk about incentivizing vaccine. As a government, we're doing everything we can to equip Manitobans with the information and support while respecting their right to make their decision about their body. But we believe the right decision is to protect yourself and to protect our community, our loved ones. And for some folks, that may mean incentivizing through financial measures. Research in Manitoba and in other jurisdictions shows that financial incentives need to be large. They should be universal. In other words, they should apply to everyone who participates in order to be effective and supportive. The higher the value of the incentive, the more it'll influence vaccine behavior. And so today, Mr. Atwal and I are here to announce that nearly $2 million in cash and scholarships will be awarded this summer to recognize Manitobans who get vaccinated this summer. Urgency matters. Vaccination is important. We need Manitobans to get vaccinated. The sooner we get vaccinated, the sooner we get our lives back. This lottery gives Manitobans a reason to move faster, to roll up their sleeves, not once but twice. I'll now pass it over to Mr. Atwal to expand on how you could be a winner, not only for getting the vaccine, but in addition to that, maybe a winner in this draw as well.
So, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Premier. I'm Manny Atwal. I'm President and CEO of Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. As Manitoba's agent responsible for the conduct and management of lottery schemes, Liquor and Lotteries has a strong and well-deserved reputation for conducting trusted, efficient, and fair gaming services. We're going to bring these same principles to Manitoba's vaccination lottery as well. We will apply the same exacting standards to ensure a fair lottery process that supports this very important vaccine campaign. As to the mechanics of how the lottery will work, there will be 2 lotteries in the coming months. All Manitobans aged 12 and up who have received at least 1 dose of vaccine on or before August 2nd will be eligible for the first lottery. Subsequently, all Manitobans aged 12 and up who have received both doses on or before September 6th will be eligible for the second. You do not have to apply or enter to be eligible. Every person who's immunized will automatically be entered. For those that are 18 plus, each lottery will award 3 prizes of $100,000 each in the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority and a single $100,000 prize in each other regional health authority. In addition, each lottery will include 10 draws for $25,000 scholarships for young people aged 12 to 17. There will be a process to opt out of the lottery, and details on that will be available very soon. Today, we are announcing the framework for Manitoba's vaccination lottery, and we recognize that there will be a lot of questions from Manitobans. There are still some technical details to work through and some important steps for us to take to ensure an appropriate, secure, and legal process is implemented. More information and details will be available soon at protectmb.ca. This pandemic and the vaccine campaign are unprecedented. On behalf of all of us at Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, we are proud to play a key role in ensuring the integrity and success of this lottery and in support of having more Manitobans immunized faster. With that, I'll turn it back to the Premier.
Thanks very much, Manny. And thanks to your team, too. Thanks for your help in your willingness and your quick work to get this off the ground and ready to go in support of our Protect MB vaccine efforts. We all want to get back to some sense of normal, and the path forward is to get as many eligible Manitobans as possible fully vaccinated. I'm excited to share with you that tomorrow I'll be getting my second vaccine dose, and I'm encouraging all Manitobans to get their first one if they haven't yet, and get their second as soon as they're eligible to if they have. To date, nearly 1 million vaccinations have been administered in Manitoba. That represents about 2/3 of our eligible Manitobans that have received at least 1 dose, and that's a significant accomplishment. And I say thank you to you if you've rolled up your sleeve already. Thanks for doing your part. You could be a lottery winner, but it's not enough. It's not enough to say 2/3 have been vaccinated. We used to think that perhaps a few months ago, but the reality of COVID is it's sneaky, and its variants are dangerous, very, very dangerous, and they move fast, and we have to move faster. And we have to move faster to get vaccinated in larger numbers than we ever thought we would have to before this pandemic struck. Still a ways to go. There's time for everybody to get on Team Manitoba and a little bit of motivation to do that. Work together to quickly finish this vaccination campaign so we can protect one another, protect our healthcare system, safely ease off those public health restrictions. Manitobans are community-minded people. I'm proud of Manitobans' history in leading the country in volunteerism and charitable causes and supporting them. You'll never find a better cause to support than this one. Here's your chance to be on that team and to do your part. Please support that cause and get a vaccine and get a chance to win up to or to be part of a $2 million incentive draw. Thank you. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Thank you, Mr. Atwal. A reminder to our reporters on the line, you will have one preliminary and one follow-up question. Up first this morning from CBC Manitoba, Bart.
Hi, Mr. Premier. On the 3rd of June, the vaccine team presented research the province conducted that found that 70% of Manitobans are very concerned about others getting something that they don't in terms of a vaccine incentive. How does that jibe with what was just announced today?
Sorry, Bart, you're just going to have to clarify for me. You said a survey showed 70% of Manitobans were concerned about someone else getting something they wouldn't get. Just to be clear, was that the question?
That is page 29 of the vaccine tech briefing slide on June 3rd. Research commissioned by the province about vaccine incentives in particular. Yes.
Yeah, right.
And that concern grows for large cash prizes.
Yeah. Well, everybody's eligible who gets a vaccine once. I think Mr. Atwal said by the first draw was.
I can go through. The first draw is August. Well, if anybody is vaccinated before August 2nd, so that includes those that have been vaccinated prior to today or any time during the process. So as long as you're vaccinated before August 2nd, you're eligible for the first draw. If you have both vaccinations before September 6th, you're eligible for the second draw. So even if you have both vaccinations now, you're actually eligible for both draws.
So how does that jive, I guess, partly is this. Everyone who wants to be in this draw can be, so no one will be left out unless they choose to be left out. And if they choose, that's their choice. But the fact is every Manitoban is eligible for a share of the prize.
I guess so, just not the outcome. How does this draw, like part of the real issue that we've seen in some of these areas, especially in Winkler or Stanley, there's questions that are unanswered, and a lot of people who are on the fence about getting a vaccine just don't know enough about it or aren't in a rush to get it. How does a lottery address that problem?
It doesn't, because it's just one part of the overall campaign. We have an advertising campaign that's underway you're aware of. We have literature available. We've been promoting the availability of additional information. We'll continue to do that. This is just one part of the overall promotional effort.
Thank you.
From the Canadian Press, Steve.
Morning, Premier. Dr. Reimer, when asked about incentives, I believe it was last week, said that, while most Manitobans are eager to get the vaccine, some are hesitant, and there are some that are just a small number that are just downright opposed. And she raised the issue that incentivizing vaccines, offering rewards, might entrench the idea in a small minority of people that the questions about having to be bribed or prodded to get the vaccine, and that it might raise questions about the veracity of the vaccine. Are you concerned about that aspect?
I'm concerned that we have our freedoms limited because of the presence of COVID. As long as COVID is here, we'll continue to have, to some degree at least, our freedoms limited in certain cases, in certain ways. Look, my dad had polio when he was a boy. There was no Salk vaccine. The Salk vaccine came out in the early 50s. It took 50 years before we eradicated polio. We can't wait 50 years to eradicate COVID. We've got to get at it. We've got to get at getting COVID out. We've got to get at it by vaccination. And we need to focus on that. So the alternative to trying to encourage people is to not try. And I don't think that that's in me, and I don't think that that's the way to go. So we're reaching out as best we can, and this is one way, in support of many others, to encourage people to get the information so they're comfortable and confident in the decisions that they take. And that's going to continue to be the focus going forward. It has to be if we want to get COVID out of here.
And a question for Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries. This $100,000 prize in each regional health authority, is that a lump sum cash payment? Is it X amount of dollars per year? How will that work?
Yeah, the expectation here is it would be a lump sum payment similar to other lotteries that are paid out. It's not an annuity, and it's not paid out over X number of years. It would be a lump sum.
From CTV Winnipeg, Jeff.
Oh, hi. I think my question's for Mr. Atwal. Can you explain the criteria around the scholarships? What if I win the scholarship, I'm a young person, and I don't plan on going to school, and where can I, like the scholarship money, are there any restrictions on what kind of school, where I can use it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and that is actually one of the elements we are continuing to work on. So when I mentioned there's additional details we're still trying to work our way through, that is exactly one of those details. There are a few different avenues to move forward on that, and we're working closely with our team. We're also working closely with our legal group. There potentially is a CRA impact as well that we want to look at, and we're working with a charitable organization to help administer and manage this as well. So we still have some work to do, and I would expect that would be addressed in the near future, prior to the draw, obviously, but in the near future we'll have a more concrete approach on that. Hopefully that answers your question for now.
And Mr. Premier, for those people who can't get a vaccine for health reasons, because there are some people, obviously they wouldn't be eligible for this. What do you want to say to them? Because some might say, well, geez, I would like a crack at some cash too.
Yeah, there's very, very few of those people, I'm told. In fact, the vaccine team is coming out here in not that long a time, and I think they could probably give you more detail on the percentage of Manitobans who actually aren't able to get a vaccine. It's a very, very small number of people, but I'll let the vaccine team address that.
From City News, Mark.
Hello. Just wondering about the two lotteries for all 12 and up. Are those going to be $1 million each? Is it just a simple $1 million prize for each one of those draws?
No. Just so that, and maybe I'll repeat myself just so that it's clear. There will be two sets of draws, and each set of draws for those that are 18 and over will be eligible for a $100,000 prize. There'll be three prizes in the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, and one of $100,000 each, and then $100,000 each prize in each regional health authority. So that'll cover the 18 plus, and that's for the first draw and also for the second draw. And then for the 12 to 17, again, two sets of draws, 10 scholarships each of $25,000 for the first draw, and then 10 sets of scholarships, $25,000 each for the second draw for the 12 to 17s.
Thanks for clearing that up. It sounds like there is a lot of draws for young people. When deciding on this incentive, was there a conversation about trying to make something more for young people to be incentivized to get the vaccination?
I can speak to the draw part of it as we went through this. So we wanted to make sure that we had something available that would incentivize either young people or their parents to ensure that we're all getting the vaccination and provide that next little push to get it over the top. And then from that perspective, the scholarship seemed to make a lot of sense. Also, from a legal perspective, only 18 and plus are eligible for prize draw money or lottery money or raffle money, and we needed to come up with a different solution for the 12 to 17s. A scholarship is an approach that falls within all the requirements legally and also within the LGCA as well. So that's the avenue that we chose, was the scholarship side of it.
From CHVN, Taylor.
Hi, good morning. Mr. Premier, you say that you're a big supporter of local businesses, but why not go with incentives that do support local businesses?
Well, these incentive programs do support local businesses, Taylor, because what they do is they make it far more likely that we can reopen. And it's the reopening in a sustained manner that small businesses want. They don't want the yo-yo that we've had to endure for far too long. So the key to this is to get vaccine numbers higher and faster. The faster we do that, the better for our local businesses and for all of us.
And Mr. Atwal, will these winning amounts be taxed?
These will be lottery winnings. So the 18 and plus, it's a lottery winning, so that is tax-free. On the 12 to 17, that's one of the questions and one of the elements we're still working through to see what that impact would be. So we don't have an answer for that yet.
From the Winnipeg Free Press, Dylan.
Good morning, Premier. Thanks for taking our questions. The three Grand Chiefs said this morning that they're disappointed in how your government has addressed the issue of residential school burial sites. They say that there's been some initial condolences, but they're waiting to hear more about the province recognizing this as a genocide or following Alberta and Saskatchewan in offering help to their burial sites. AMC Grand Chief Dumas said nobody has called or texted him and that the province is, quote, incapable of working with First Nations. I wanted to get your response on that, and if your government's thinking, what your government's thinking is around why Manitoba isn't offering the same things as the other prairie provinces.
We actually have offered ongoing support on an ongoing basis, but you have to understand as well that there is an AMC Grand Chief election on right now, and measure your need for a response based on the reality of that election campaign that is presently underway.
Thank you. And I had a question about provincial parks. Earlier this week, there was an outcry by Manitobans when they learned that St. Ambrose Beach and its campground had been leased by private businessmen. There are also two other similar proposals out there. One is for Grass River and the other is for Turtle Mountain. Given the blowback, I was wondering if the government will reconsider whether it should lease out these areas of provincial parks.
Dylan, your preamble is false. There wasn't a lease on the beach at St. Ambrose. In fact, after the flood effects, that beach was in disrepair for close to a decade. The contract was with a local gentleman, to open a campground, and he can charge people to use that campground if he wishes. It's an additional service that hasn't been there for over a decade. Previous government didn't repair the beach or the campground area at all. And so this is a measure that we've taken to restore services to an area that's beautiful. I would encourage Manitobans to use it, and they'll be able to use it with their park pass.
From Global News, Joe.
Morning, Mr. Premier and Mr. Atwal. Just wondering, does the province have a target it would like to hit with this lottery? Like how many new appointments would be considered successful in this incentive program?
It's a good question, Joe. I think really we've got so many different avenues that we're going after to recruit and motivate and encourage people right now, and there aren't specific targets for each, but globally, I think that more and more you're hearing the numbers ranging from 85 to 90% as being necessary for us to really protect ourselves against the possible advent of a fourth wave. This has been enhanced. This number has grown over time, as you know, as a result of new variants coming in that are, more virulent and more challenging because of the rapidity of transmission and that type of thing. So we need higher numbers of people. I'm a pitcher from way back, and you need to use your best pitch against the best, most dangerous hitters, and COVID's a dangerous hitter. We've got to get COVID out, and the way we do that is with vaccines.
Thank you. And this was already touched on a bit, but can you go over why a draw and if anything else was being considered?
Well, yeah, we've got lots of other initiatives underway in addition to this, and I've outlined some of those already. I want to throw this comment in. I'm not a big fan of gambling, and that's why I think this draw makes such good sense, because you're gambling with COVID if you aren't getting a vaccination. And so I would say don't think of this as encouraging gambling. That's part of the reason I think that we're looking at scholarship prizes for young people. We don't want to be encouraging gambling, but the reality is if you're not getting a vaccine, then you're gambling with getting COVID. So I'd say if you want a surer thing, never 100% sure, but if you want a surer thing, you should bet on getting a vaccine so that you can make yourself safer and everyone else around you too.
From the Brandon Sun, Colin.
Good morning. Premier, earlier this week, the Brandon Wheat Kings introduced their own vaccine incentive program where people can show proof of vaccination and get entered into a draw for team prizes. Would you like to see more businesses in Manitoba create supplementary vaccination incentive programs like the Wheat Kings?
I'd like to see incentivization exercises of various kinds, and I'm really proud to see the Wheat Kings do what they've decided to do there. I also wanted to compliment Mayor Martin Harder over in Winkler on his incentivization initiatives. We can work at various levels together to incentivize here. And while you're talking hockey, I just want to congratulate the Nipawin hockey program on their name change. I think that was a wise move, and probably some would say overdue.
Currently, the federal government is in the process of talking about removing some restrictions on surrounding quarantines when re-entering the country. Does the province know how that change will interact with the vaccination card exemption from quarantining that you announced yesterday yet?
I'll have more to say on that tomorrow when we announce reopening strategy. But most certainly we believe that the first step is a Canadian reunion, and that means having the ability to reward those who are double vaccinated. They're far less likely to have any part in transmitting COVID, and therefore we need to get those freedoms back in terms of domestically, but in the international side, as part of the Council of the Federation, I'll have more to say on what's going on that front tomorrow.
From CJOB, Schuyler.
Hi, Mr. Atwal and Premier. Thanks for your time. Mr. Atwal, maybe you could go over the process for someone that may have received their vaccine out of province but has since returned, how they can enter the lottery. There is some language in the news release, but it is a little vague.
Again, excellent question, and there will be a process for them to opt in if they can demonstrate that they were vaccinated somewhere else. Again, that's something that we're working on at this point in time, and that particular step or process will actually be with the government itself and not with liquor and lotteries, because that's going to be healthcare data or privacy information in there. So we want to make sure we're distanced from that. So there'll be a process to work directly with provincial health to provide that verification and opt-in, but we just don't have it defined just yet.
Okay, thank you for that. And Premier, this one's probably more for you. Can you just tell us why you landed on the dates you did in relation to the province's vaccine rollout? Obviously, unless there's a big change coming down at 12:30 today, we're planning on having everyone able to get their first dose by the end of June, and then everyone getting their second dose by the end of July. Why the August and September date?
Well, just to allow the opportunity for everybody to be in Schuyler, I think is essentially it. We've had some supply disruptions in the past, as you know, just to be sure that everybody has a chance to get in. And every Manitoban that has that opportunity will be able to share in the approximately $2 million that's going to benefit those who have got their first vaccine on the first draw and their second by the time of the second draw. So it gives a little margin for that possible change. I'm not being pessimistic here. I'm just realistic that we want to make sure everybody has a chance to get in.
From the Winnipeg Sun, Josh.
Good morning, Premier. You're asked a little bit earlier about business supports, but we've already been kind of cautioned the last couple of days that there's not going to be a big adjustment to the health orders that are going to come later this afternoon. So there's ostensibly going to be a number of pretty heavy restrictions still on businesses. Some that haven't been open since the fall. Are there any more direct cash type supports coming for those businesses, potentially the bridge grant, some other form of support, so that they can still be in an operable position when we do come out of this pandemic or come out of some of these restrictions once there's enough vaccine update where it is safe to actually open their doors again?
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Josh. You know that we've been very conscious of doing everything we can to support our small businesses with programs that work complementary to the federal programs but are more readily available, easier to get, faster to get the money out there. Knowing that we're not going to ever make up for the damage caused by this pandemic, I think most small businesses want us to battle COVID, and they want to get us safer so that they can reopen without restrictions as soon as possible. So that's what today's announcement is about. As far as additional supports, as you know, we've got hundreds of millions of dollars already out, and we're already open to and have been open to more announcements on other support programs. We've got some other things in the design phase right now.
Okay. And the funds for this lottery program, is this coming directly from the province, or is this from other Manitoba lottery funds that are already in the system? Where are the funds for these $2 million coming from?
Your 2-year-old. We're borrowing money to try to get out of this pandemic. We just announced the largest deficit in Manitoba history here a few weeks ago. So let's be honest. We've got to get out of this pandemic. And the faster we do that, the better. And that's why we're after getting people vaccinated as quick as they can so that we can resume our social lives and resume our economic lives, because it is our economy, and those small businesses you referenced in your first question there are, when they're having a chance to operate and pay taxes, they're paying for our healthcare system, and our roads are getting fixed, and our education system too, along with all of us when we pay our taxes. So we need to get our economy back so we can support and sustain our healthcare systems and everything that government does. And we need to get our freedoms restored. And the way we do that is we get vaccinated.
Our final reporter this morning, Mr. Premier, from CBC Radio Canada, Zoe.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier Ministre. We've touched on that a little bit. I want to come back and would like to hear more about the immunization card. How will this card be enforced? Are there employees, for example, at the airport who will verify people's cards with a QR code?
C'est une bonne question. Pour le carte, pour l'efficacité de la carte, c'est nécessaire c'est nécessaire pas pour un papier. Hein? So a plastic card, not necessary. We are able to do the evaluation through mechanisms that are virtual, and this is how we'll be able to ensure that folks who are traveling back to Manitoba need not follow the 2-week isolation period. But much of our system, as everyone in the media understands, is based on the honor principle. We have to have people respecting each other enough to follow the recommendations and public health orders. That's the second key part, get vaccinated and follow the public health orders. We need to do both those things to make our recovery real.
Merci pour l'information. And still about that immunization card, is there any development regarding other provinces? For example, if I'm from another province, I got my 2 doses, do I have to self-isolate in Manitoba? Is it also based on with the honor principle, as you said?
Yeah, it's important to understand that other visitors from other provinces who come here will also not have to isolate if, in fact, they have evidence that they have the second vaccination at least the 2 weeks prior as well. So Dr. Russin will have more to say on that, I think, later today. And as I said earlier in my comments, I am also very interested in pursuing, we'll call it reciprocity, equal treatment in other jurisdictions. So in other words, just as we would want to encourage more Canadians to travel safely if they have their second shot, we would also extend the benefits to those who come here. We would like to see those benefits extended to Manitobans who travel to other jurisdictions that have, some of whom in Canada have had pretty severe restrictions on people coming in from outside up till now. We'd like to see those restrictions eliminated or reduced where these jurisdictions recognize, as we do, that a second vaccine is a good thing to get, and though never 100% guarantee, puts you in a much better position to be safe than would be the case without it, without those 2 shots. I just want to say thanks again, Mr. Atwal. Thank you so much to you and your team for being here today.
Thank you.
And encourage all of you to get vaccinated, and look forward to mine tomorrow morning. All the best.